A few weeks ago, the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League took on Summit Point Motorsports Park with their Big Bore and GMX5 categories for a 72-minute race. This time, we're going to head to Lime Rock Park, a tiny little 1-mile 7-turn track in Connecticut for another endurance event. This time, 45 minutes with the Audi RS3 TCR and the GMX5 cars all over again. Welcome to Sim TV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Finney DeCuna and a special guest, Greg Ginsberg, who's been commentating the SCCA Hoosier Super Tour over on the SCCA channel for the last couple weeks. So he's joining us here tonight for this 45-minute event. Finian, welcome back to the DC SCCA League. It's been a little while since we've been up here for these guys, but we're no stranger to Lime Rock Park. We're very familiar with this racetrack. Excited to get this one underway this evening.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing these guys. Just had a great race at Summit Point. And with similar cars, and then now looking to see how they can tackle Lime Rock. This is going to be interesting running mixed class cars here, and as big of a grid as we're running here at such a small track, so we could expect a decent amount of mixed class chaos here depending on how these guys tackle this race.
Greg, welcome to the Sim TV booth here, and tonight's going to be a fun one. This is a tiny little racetrack for almost 60 cars here tonight. Pretty even class split, about 25 TCRs, and the rest of the field all GMX5. It's going to be a wild one, 45 minutes at LRP.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Finian. Absolutely, it's going to be very interesting here. As you mentioned, we've got a very short track, the Lime Rock Bullring, 1.5 miles, 7 turns, not a ton of passing opportunities. And if the race, if we have the same number of cars racing today that we're seeing in qualifying, we may have up to 50 cars out on track tonight here at Lime Rock, and that's a lot of density for a very small little track.
Absolutely. And Finian, I want you to take me through a lap here at Lime Rock Park, because this place is relatively simple. There's only a couple left-handers. The rest of the track is pretty much just rights, but walk me through a lap of Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, well, going past the start-finish line, you're going to get down to turn 1, probably the best place to get past not only cars in your own class, but lap traffic as well. So guys are only going to take advantage of that, and it's, it's a decreasing radius corner, so you got to be careful on the exit. And going down into turn 2, one of the only left-handers on the track, you got to watch out not go off into the grass on the right side, and also set up for turn 3, which leads you onto the back straightaway.
Then you're going to head down the long back straight, the no-name straight they call it here, before you head uphill in turn number 5. You're going to watch the track out because there's a little bit of runoff there you can use, but a tire barrier just beyond that. You crest the hill, head slightly downhill to turn 6, and then you crest another hill before you head all the way down a very steep cliff through turn number 7 to return you back to the front straight. Relatively straightforward lap around here, Greg, but it's not an easy track by any stretch of the imagination. It's easy to lap, but hard to be fast.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of finesse to make your way around this track. Again, as you mentioned, majority right-hand turns, but probably the most difficult turn that the drivers are going to find is that huge drop-off, the diving turn, turn 7, bringing you onto the front straight, where it takes a lot of commitment, a lot of guts to make it through there, to carry speed onto that front straight. As you mentioned, one of the prime passing spots that you want to get things done before going into turn 1. So it's absolutely critical that you carry speed through turn 7.
So we've already had the TCR cars qualifying. We'll look up on the left-hand side of your screen, the multi-class ticket here, the top 10 in your TCR category. Elias Roman, Sang Yi, Tom O'Gorman, Paul Gibson making his return to the WDCR series, and Ken House-Seal, Chris Baumgartner, Greg Obadia, Todd Lamb making his first start in the DC Region SCCA iRacing League, Mark Lamance, and Forrest Landy, your top 10, and GMX5 is on track qualifying now, Finian. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the drivers in the Miatas tonight are going to have to be really careful, because those TCR machines are like tanks out there compared to the MX5s.
Yeah, that really, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, because, these guys are, the cars are so light, and like you're saying, the Audi TCR, as soon as they make contact, it's not going to be the TCR that takes, the brunt of the hit. The Maz is going to be the one going flying off the track. So they're going to have to be watching their mirrors quite a bit and kind of looking at the relative as well to see, where they're going to end up in traffic in some of these corners, so that way they can navigate on through and hope that the TCRs don't get into them.
Greg, 45 minutes, is it a sprint or is this an endurance? How do you treat this? And are we expecting a lot of chaos in the first couple laps, or do you think it'll be pretty calm?
I think there is going to be a lot of chaos here until things start to straighten out. Of course, you're going to have issues with the MX-5 cars, probably on very cold tires and a bit evil to drive. The first couple of laps, we'll have to see how they manage things. But again, with such tight quarters, I would suspect that you're going to probably see some very aggressive driving at the start of the race. That most of these drivers will be treating it like a sprint, perhaps to their peril, and it may take a couple of laps before they start to get into a groove here for the 45-minute race. You know, if this was an analog race, certainly, especially in the MX-5 Cup cars, this would be treated like a sprint.
And Greg, there's also quite a few names in here that we're very familiar with. DJ Alessandrini right now currently quickest in GMX5. Ryan Maloney. We've seen Alexander Lekowitz in the 168. All sorts of names in here that we're familiar with seeing in the Hoosier SCCA Esports Super Tour, kind of coming over on a Friday night to run a little LRP.
Absolutely. Alessandrini, the birthday boy. Today is his birthday, by the way. I'm sure he's hoping to get that big birthday win today. He has had a number of wins so far on the Hoosier Esports Super Tour. We also have here, as you mentioned, Lekowitz. We've also got Ryan Maloney, a couple other drivers, and these are Washington, D.C. region drivers. For example, Khalil Naderboff is here. David Stern, who I believe was just off the Mars SSM Championship this past year. We also have Alan Claffey. Claffey is an autocrosser with the Washington, D.C. region. I don't believe he has a competition license, but he's certainly been brushing up his skills here in iRacing. He'll be in the number 39 car today.
Vinny, 4 minutes left in qualifying. How important is it to qualify well here at LRP? We've seen this place in the past be, very track position focused because of how difficult it can be to pass. I mean, if you start outside of the top 10, do you still think you can win this race in Global MX-5?
I definitely think you can. I mean, obviously, qualifying isn't everything. However, it is going to mean quite a bit because we're talking again. There's a lot of cars on this track, and especially a lot of cars in the other class. I think as soon as the faster class, this case being the Audi TCR, as soon as they catch up to the MX-5s, they're going to have a significantly harder time passing cars in their own class. So the MX-5, I think you're going to want to definitely gain as much positions as possible early on before the Audis come to lap you, because then you're not only going to have to let them by, you're also going to have to try to struggle to pass cars you're racing against, and that's really going to be hard around a place where passing is already limited.
So 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. Greg, talk to me about the hazards of Lime Rock Park. Obviously, this is the brand new version of LRP, just put in iRacing last summer, and some of the changes to this racetrack. A lot smoother pavement, big, taller curbs through the majority of the racetrack, but the same hazards of a lack of pavement runoff and close tire barriers in some corners still make this place pretty dangerous to drive.
Well, I think you spelled it out right there. Lime Rock Park, which first opened in 1957, built into a small patch of land, and there is not a lot of runoff room here, and especially there are certain places, like, for example, as you come up out of the no-name straight into the uphill, there is the tendency for these cars to get very light, in some cases have the front ends of the cars actually get airborne, and so very, very possible for cars to run wide, and you'll see the cars come and loop right across the track as they make their way down towards West Bend. So big challenges there, but I think you said it. There's a lot of Armco, and it is very, very close to the side of the track. Great chances if cars do get some of these turns wrong to actually bounce right across into traffic here at Lime Rock and could really upset some other drivers' races.
So, Finian, almost 60 cars lined up to start this one. We've got just about 54 is what I'm counting right now. I mean, I think there's a lot of drivers out there that are just looking to survive. What's the best way to do that? Are you trying to get out in front of the field, or are you trying to kind of sit behind, wait for people to drive out of the way into the grass before you can overtake?
Definitely think you're gonna might want to just kind of hope that people make mistakes. Like Greg was talking about earlier. Guys coming up through the hill, that's gonna be really sketchy on the first couple of laps with the tires being cold, and guys are gonna be trying to force the issue. So if you can force people to make a mistake, it's gonna make your day a lot easier. So I think we might see guys put some pressure on the drivers up ahead of them.
Want to take a look at the weather before we get rolling here this afternoon. Track surface, Greg, 89 degrees Fahrenheit, so not super hot and not super cool. Just kind of a beautiful evening here at Lime Rock Park. A good day for racing.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. Good day for racing. And it's not too hot, as you said, and that should make it much easier for these drivers to make those tires last, if not through the entirety of I would suspect through the entirety of the race. And as long as they can stay smooth, they may find some drop off on their left tire, since this track is running clockwise and it has so many right-hand turns. But they should be able to make these tires pretty much last through the end of the race, being very well balanced as both chassis are.
So 40 seconds left in qualifying, and again, the timing and scoring shows you the top 10 in both categories. We already went over the TCR drivers starting at the front of the field, the first 5 rows. Alessandrini, Lekowitz, Lapras, Maloney, and Rubin, your top 5 in GMX5. Then Zoo, Leighton, Scott, Cromwell, and Friday. Another new name here in the DC Region SCCA iRacing League. He sits 10th at the moment. We're going to let the overall grid scroll through here real quick so you get an idea of who's down the rest of the order. This is all the TCR cars. TCRs are the red number boards, and the GMX5 class are the black number boards, just so everyone at home has an idea of what they're looking at on the screen. This ticker will rotate between overall order and class order. Again, when it's split in half, it's per class. And when it's overall like this, with the bottom 5 rotating, that's the overall order. So qualifying is listed as complete. Checkered flag waves here, Greg. So drivers that started a lap are allowed to complete one. But if you haven't yet started a lap as a checkered flag falls, you're only allowed to finish up the lap that you're on. To finish up that lap, exactly. And from the looks of it, as we're waiting for the last of the MX5 Cup cars to complete these flying laps, it appears that almost every one of the TCR Audis did out-qualify the MX5 Cup cars. So we would have expected already that the TCR cars would have started at the front of the split start, with Elias Roman the fastest lap overall. But every one of the MX5 Cup cars fairly closely matched, but not quite to the pace of any of the TCR cars. And so you would suspect that as the green flag flies and this race starts, Alessandrini might actually have, if he can move out to the lead, both he, Lekowitz, actually the first 2 rows of the MX5 race, Alessandrini, Lekowitz, Lapras, and Maloney will probably have some air ahead of them to really go at it and battle from the start of this race. And we'll have to see if they, with the 45-minute time frame here, if they decide to simply get in the draft and try to separate themselves out from the rest of the pack and really give themselves a larger gap, and then let the bulk of the MX5 field worry about those TCR cars as they come thundering through. So in just a moment, we're going to grid up 55 cars at Lime Rock. Finian, we had precedents for doing this in the past. Think back about a year ago, it was the Grid Life iRacers group that took on this track, but it was only a single class. It was with the MX5 cars. They had 60 on track and had a minimal amount of problems, but with a multi-class format, we're probably going to go through the first 5 or 6 laps okay, but as soon as those TCRs start to cycle back around to the tail of the field, that's when it's going to get really hectic and where everyone has to be on their toes and paying attention.
Yeah, that's right. Like you pretty much said it again. Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of the carnage is going to happen. Again, obviously, it's going to depend on how spread out the fields are, which, considering how these guys are down the straight, mainly the MX5s, I imagine the MX5s are going to be probably pretty close together, and these TCR cars are going to catch them in chunks. So everyone's got to be on their toes with the TCR and the MX5s. So we're going to let the grid scroll on the bottom of the screen here in just a minute. We're not going to have time to show you all of them, so we're just going to let them roll through the bottom of the screen. So just keep your eye on to find your favorites here in just a moment. But at the tail of the grid, I think there's a lot of drivers that are going to have to paying a lot of attention. Greg, where's the trouble spot on lap 1? What are we watching out for? Is it turn 1, or is the uphill that's going to be more treacherous? I think probably at the start of the race, actually, turn 1 and turn 2, the big right-hander before you get to the S's at turn 3. I think that's probably going to be the biggest issue, just simply because of the density that we have here. I'd hope that it might straighten out a little bit and cars might start to get into line as they exit the no-name straight going into the uphill. But frankly, Kyle and Finian, I think the whole first maybe 2 laps are probably going to be pretty treacherous for all of these drivers here. So we got a couple seconds left in the gridding process. Looks like a couple cars didn't take the grid. I'll list through some of them. Lex Kuracek didn't make it. Neither did Thomas Lee, Zachary Science, or Charles Boley. They all did not make the grid. So 4 of our 54 drivers, and David Grant as well, in the TCR class. Yeah, and actually all those drivers, I believe, are listed as not in the server.
Okay, so we have officially then, what's that, 49 starters? 49 or 50, I think. Looks like 49.
Yeah, 49.
There's still a whole lot of cars, guys, so this is a very small racetrack. Had we done this at a track like Watkins Glen or Road Atlanta, I don't think there'd be quite so much concern, but this is a lot of cars for this racetrack. Greg, I don't even know, is there a real-life grid limit at LRP?
I don't know of a specific grid limit. The typical rule in SCCA racing is to have 2 cars per mile, and sometimes you'll get a dispensation to go a little bit above that, and so you're sitting pretty much right at the limit of what would be allowed for an SCCA race here.
All right, so heading into the uphill for the first time. I'm not seeing a lot of tire warming out there, Finney, and there's not a lot of space to do it. This track is also really narrow. These TCR cars are big, but we are seeing a pretty sizable field gap between Alessandrini, the leader and the pole sitter of the GMX5 category, in the rear of the TCRs, Finney, and so leaving a little bit of gap just in case.
Yeah, it really is, because especially the thing, too, I'm most interested in seeing, obviously with the amount of TCRs we got, got to imagine someone's bound to make a mistake and go off the track, and when they come back on, there's going to be a charging field of MX-5s coming for them. So some of the back markers in TCR, they make a mistake, they could be coming into MX-5 traffic, and that could be some chaos already at the beginning.
All right, field rolls out at turn number 7. It's 45 minutes for the DC Region SCCA iRacing League, the Enduro at Lime Rock Park. Elias Roman's going to bring him to the field right alongside Paul Gibson, and new Valvoline Esports driver Tom O'Gorman sits in the second row. Green flag flies and racing at Lime Rock Park for the DC Region SCCA at LRP.
All right, and as they come now down into turn number 1, we do have our pole sitter takes the point going into turn 1, but as they come out of turn 2, Tom O'Gorman, as you said, that new Valvoline Esports sponsored driver, takes the lead now coming through turn number 3 and heading over towards turn number 4 and the no-name straight, opening up a pretty large gap here right at the beginning of the race, guys.
And pretty easy, no issues there for the TCR field, and GMX5 looks just as clean. Alessandrini's free and clear and away. They're double wide behind him for 7th place at Zoom. Bit of a bobble by Thomas Layton in the 44. Otherwise, I think we got free and clear of that first quarter at the very least. So Tom O'Gorman's going to lead the field through turn 6 for the first time already. A lap nearly complete. This is going to go by fast.
Yeah, indeed. I was actually amazed that Elias Roman, we were talking about going through without an issue. He almost had an issue. He got pretty sideways down to turn 1, was able to save it, but he had to surrender the lead on early.
Car off a little wide there, Greg. That I believe was maybe the 53, or the car right behind him was the 12 car. That car being driven tonight by, looks like, trying to look down the timing and scoring, Mark LeBance in that TCR.
LeBance, yeah. Yeah, so as they come down, and it takes a little while to try and get your points, especially right now as the drivers are so tightly packed on that very first lap, trying to nail their turn-in points. Not a big surprise that we had a few drivers turning in early. Looks like we've had another car go around. That's the Lucky Stripe car that's the 243 car, yep. I believe that's Zoo, right?
Oh, and he actually got into Zach Rubin, it seems, and that's what knocked Zoo sideways. This was on the straightaway.
Yeah, so already some early trouble for them. So Zach Rubin is already, we got to take a look at this, guys. This is a pretty big incident. Let's go back and see exactly how this all went down. This is at the exit of the final corner. Rubin was already in the wall, comes back across the track, and this is just running wide on corner exit in turn 7 there, Greg. So that's a treacherous spot even early in the race, and Rubin's already out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we were just talking about as they come down the hill. Not uncommon for drivers to turn in a little early there to run wide, and that's exactly what happened to Rubin. And he ran out of ground and got into the Armco there, came right across the track and right into Zoo's Miata.
So Finney and Alessandrini leads in GMX5. Lekowitz in the 168 is second with Lapras right behind. These lead MX5s have a bit of an advantage over the guys in the midfield, though, because by the time the TCRs make their way through this GMX5 field, they're going to be a lot more spread out, where if you're battling right now in the middle of that second category, you're going to get really split up as the majority of the field comes on through. Paul Gibson's actually out. This is over in West Bend here, so he's gone for a bit of a slide. Oh, he's right perpendicular to the racetrack and gets back going. That's a scary spot to rejoin.
Yeah, it really is, and you're just talking about the field, Audi TCRs when they make their way on through traffic, and essentially they're going to act like a knife and just start carving up the MX-5 field, so you're definitely going to want to be towards the top end of the field by the time the Audis get there.
Well, Well, and they're there already. It looks like they're already making their way through a few of those cars now, and some heads-up driving from the tail end of the MX-5 field to start letting that train of TCR cars through.
There's Ryan Christoph, who's got plenty of experience in SCCA runoffs, Greg, so putting that to use, getting past all sorts of different categories and classes, he's going to need to use that expertise tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Ryan driving a GT Light Honda CRX. He knows a front-wheel drive car, knows the handling characteristics. Of course, I think these TCR cars a little bit different than the first-gen Honda CRX that he's used to driving. But I would expect to see Christoph start to move his way up through the field. As you can see, he's already picked up 3 positions.
Back in GMX5. Oh, where's Alessandrini gone? He looks like he's potentially dropped down the field here, guys. I don't see him on the timing screen. He's all the way back down in 10th spot in class. Was there contact here? Did he crash? What happened?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where he's ended up.
Oh, it was off in turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, it looks like he went off, went wide on the exit of turn number 2, as he had Zach Griffith that was right beside him, I believe, and as Alessandrini tried to get back online, cut right across the track. And that's right, it was Lekowitz that he was side by side with.
And Lapras has just gone off as well, guys. Sorry to interrupt you there, Fade. No, it was. Oh, it is Lapras. He's going to head straight from pit lane.
Yeah, that's because he was the one that was hit by Alessandrini. So both taking out a few front runners early with a mistake, uncharacteristic mistake by Alessandrini.
Yeah, that's a rare mistake. You don't really see DJ make a mistake or drop a wheel on purpose very often. And that was just a little bit of a mistake, and that cost him a lot of positions, guys. But it's a 45-minute race. It's only 5 minutes down. He's currently 8th. Now we're going to see if he can battle back.
Fortunately for him, he doesn't have a lot of damage, so I think it should be pretty easy for him to get on by as you see O'Gorman working through some traffic here, as well as the other TCR leaders.
Yeah, and we can see that Miata now making his way back off the pit lane and back onto the track. But the big incident here over at turn number 1 with the 66 at Greg Obadia, a Spec Racer Ford driver, both from the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series and also national SCCA competition as well.
And here's a look at the replay. It was an MX-5 that had just rejoined the racetrack, spins out.
Yeah, Claffey.
Oh, Alan Claffey, and spins back across the racetrack, and that's what puts Obadia into the concrete. And those are hard highway barriers out there, Greg. Those things hurt, and that's probably at the end of the night for Obadia.
Yeah, I would suspect that his night is probably done. He went and hit that nose up, and I don't think that car is going to be able to continue.
Here is Todd Lamb, and Finney, you might recognize this car. This is the Atlanta Speedworks, number 84, and Lamb making his first start in this series tonight. Obviously, he has experience with these cars, and he's sitting in 8th, right where he started, and dealing with some traffic right behind Christoph in the 46 car right in front.
Yeah, and Todd Lamb, of course, is a former Global MX. Back then, it wasn't called Global MX-5 Cup. It was Spec Miata, I believe, and I believe he was the 2011 champion. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but of course, he has been running in TCR in Michelin Pilot Cup Challenge of late in a Honda TCR car.
And you just saw him get by Ryan Christoph at the crest of the hill, and behind him there's Francois Brou and Michael Shea. Louis Alessi all in a 3-car fight for 11th place in class. Into turn 1, Finney. This is going to get really tight as they all get on the binders.
Yeah, it is, and you can see them there on the back trying to scrap for position, trying to get on behind him. He's done a great job defending at turn 1 and get it. We said time and time again that's your best passing opportunity on the track, especially in the midst of all this traffic.
And it is already getting pretty crazy. How about for 2nd place in TCR? This is Elias Roman, and he's got Ken House-Hill right behind him, and we know Ken's been practicing quite a bit for this. And there's a car off of Miata at the top of the hill. Didn't see who that was. Looked like it was Marcus Pine in the 29 car.
Pine.
Oh, and he had some contact with Tom O'Gorman, actually, our TCR leader. That's what sent him around.
Let's go back and take a look. Oh, that was really dicey. That hole was the open and then just closed. That's how fast things happen there, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely, and he came right down to the apex, but you could see here as O'Gorman starts to make his way through traffic. I don't think the 29 car even knew he was there.
Out of the hill. Sorry to interrupt, Greg. There was a massive crash involving 5 TCR cars, and it was Darren Treacle, Louis Alessi, Michael Shea involved.
Oh, here's a look at, wow, this was a big one.
Yeah.
And that was...
it looks like Todd Lamb was involved as well, and... yeah, it looks like it took out half the Washington, D.C. region there.
Yeah, what happened here? So this was coming up the crest of the hill. So Todd Lamb made contact right there with the MX-5. Gets turned across the wall, and then right there, it's all just going to break loose here. Look at this.
Yeah, and he comes across. And, you know, this is when we opened the show, Kyle, we talked about some of the challenges of running through here, and this is exactly where I mentioned as cars come through the uphill. As they get light, they run off into that Armco, and as we saw Todd Lamb bounced across first from driver's left to driver's right, and then from driver's right back across the track the second time, and ended up taking out another 3 or 4 cars.
And you see Roman and Hausiel continue to battle for position. They're right in front of Elias Roman is the 57 TCR. That car is being driven by David Gran, who started from the pits here tonight, and now it's getting, they kind of threw a little bit of a block here. Not a bad place, or not a good place rather, to be in the way of Roman's going to swing out driver's left. Going to get sandwiched here behind an MX-5 contact there with Gran over in the second place TCR.
Close quarters, and Kenton Koch just trying to look for his way on by, but he's kind of stuck in behind Roman and also the MX-5 as they finally able to get on through. And O'Gorman's loving this because as these guys are stuck not only battling but also working through the MX-5 field, he's just building and building that gap.
So, Greg, obviously we're seeing David Grant fight really hard for this lap position. Again, sandwiching it behind the MX-5. What's the courtesy here if you're a lap down TCR?
Well, I mean, if you're a lap down, it's hard. Obviously, the driver wants to get back up into the field. You know, the one thing that you always want to do, and we try to teach drivers in the analog world, is to be predictable. And if the driver had moved over to get out of the way, and actually we saw some issues during the 1.2 hours at the point last week, where drivers thought they were doing the gentlemanly thing and actually ended up creating a little bit more chaos. And especially here, where everything is in very tight quarters, it's really up to that overtaking car to try and find a clean way to get through. I don't think you can really lay anything on the car that was a lap down. I guess you said that was Dave Gran.
Yeah, and checking back in with our MX-5 lead, this is Ryan Maloney, who's got it right now in the 56, and Lekowitz right behind in that green and purple VRS-sponsored car. They're going to run nose to tail. It's 3 seconds back to Sam Scott in third. Checking in on DJ Alessandrini, he's back up into 5th place after dropping out of the lead in turn 2 a few laps ago. There's Scott to the inside, or just through Cromwell. That's still for third. Sang Yi and the 1 car's off in turn 1. He started this race up in 2nd place, guys, but falling back to 5 spots to 7th.
Yeah, a tough break for him.
It's just very busy out there right now. It's hard to kind of pick the battles because there's just so much going on. There's Dave Fitzgerald in the 91. He had a lot of trouble at the Summit Point race a few weeks ago and crashed out on one relatively early. He's up 8 spots in class. Look at this mess on the back straight here. No name straight.
Perfect example of all the mess that's going on. Guys passing lap cars and also pass cars of the same class. You see Fitzgerald gets side by side up the hill, and that's probably one of the hardest places to make a pass.
Yeah, very difficult. I was a little surprised to see Dave do that. Dropped wheels over the top of the curbing there, driver's right, and just barely kept from getting into the car. And it looks like we have somebody off here coming out of turn 7.
Yeah, that was one of the MX-5s there, and it was Steve Moeller. Yes, thanks, Vinny, in the 10th place MX-5. He went off, but we were watching that battle with Tala Sadiq, Ido Waxman, and I think at the front of this group, is that Francois Brou? Yes, it is, in the 69 car. So it's a 4-car fight. Actually, make that 5 is, it looks like Michael Shea has kind of joined the back of this group here, actually right in the middle of it.
Yeah, Shea in 11th. He is sitting right in that train as well. It's quite a bit until you get a little further back to Kessel and Fitzgerald. They're actually, those 2 drivers are sitting back behind some of the Spec MX-5 traffic as they now make their way through the uphill and make their way down towards the diving turn, towards turn number 7, and that huge drop-off here at Lime Rock.
We're just running on board with Shea now through turn number 7, and a little bit of a slow up there for Francois Brou behind the MX-5. We heard some more contact behind Shea. He's been run into. That was, I believe, was that Andrew Kessel? Yes, it was, in the number 18 Shell Machine. Some contact there in 7. Oh, 3 wide contact with the 97. That is Josh Cada now in the 97. A little bit of pushing and shoving there between classes.
So it's looking like that. My prediction as far as things perhaps getting a little bit more calm here as the race moves on, perhaps not happening. And again, I think that's the issue here when you're running with these with the TCR cars, with the Audis that are about 4 seconds a lap faster than the MX-5 Cup cars here on a very short track. You really do have those TCR cars trying to knife their way through as we take a look at here at the battle for the lead in Global MX-5.
Maloney on the outside, Lekowitz up the inside. The last time we saw this battle, the leader went offline at the exit of turn 2. TCR's behind him, and Lekowitz slides to driver's left. There's Ryan Christoph right behind us. Francis Castillo Romero in the 96 car making his way through the lead in GMX-5 battle. And Lekowitz kind of got the short end of the stick there, Finian.
Yeah, that's kind of the tough thing, when you have mixed class traffic working on through, someone's going to have to, give up time and let the other cars on through. Otherwise, you find yourself on the wall or off the grass.
So, how about second place in TCR again? Ken Ausiel has once again found Elias Roman. This is all 11 seconds behind leader Tom O'Gorman in that Valvoline number 194.
Yeah, and as O'Gorman has really had the opportunity with, of course he's had to deal with some of the same traffic as all these other drivers, but pretty much from the get-go, he did open up a pretty huge gap, and he, of course, hasn't had to worry about any interclass battles as both Roman and Husiel have been going at it now for almost this entire race.
So, and Greg, tell me, if you're leading right now, is that an advantage to have? Will people treat you with more respect if you got the number 1 next to your name?
I would suspect that the majority of the drivers that are out here probably don't know that car is the leader coming through. Again, if they just stay predictable, I think everything will be okay. The big issue that you have here is just simply the density. When you have cars that are 2 and sometimes 3 wide when there's only room to be 2 wide here, it's kind of hard to knife through. But O'Gorman obviously has quite a bit of experience working through traffic, and the advantage that he has right now is he's built up such a lead. He has the opportunity to and we have a big crash here going into turn 1 with the 46 of Christoph, and right ahead of him was
Francis Castillo Romero's 96 car.
Romero.
They got together
getting into each other. They were around the exit of 1. But the advantage that O'Gorman has is that he can exert a little bit of patience, and he can wait until those gaps open up, and he can play it much more safely, even if the drivers ahead of him don't know he's currently the leader.
Alan Daner off in turn number 3 in the 25 car. He's gone for a bit of a ride. Back up, check back in with our leaders in GMX-5 once again. This is going to be like this for the majority of the race, I would expect, Greg. These two nose to tail like this.
Yes, I would think so, and of course the issue there that you're going to have for Lekowitz at least is that as the TCR cars try to knife through, he's constantly going to have to try and make up that gap over and over and over again, because there really just isn't a good place except here on the front straight for those TCR cars to make their way through without impacting the 168 cars race.
And for second place, TCR's changed hands. Finian Ken Ausiel goes to second over Elias Roman. So that battle's done, but O'Gorman continue. Well, okay, I say done now, but Elias Roman hasn't really gone anywhere.
Yeah, he really hasn't. He's stayed right in behind Ausiel, and he could see a potential counterattack. Although I'd almost say these guys might want to try to, have a little bit of a truce here for the next, 30 minutes to potentially try to catch up to O'Gorman, because he's been expanding that gap. It's been trickling. We saw it really expand from about 2 seconds to 7 seconds, and then from there it's just been slowly expanding as these guys have been struggling to catch back up to O'Gorman. It's just been easily ticking through traffic and not having to worry about fighting other cars. So I think these guys can, decide on an order. They can potentially try to start carving their way through the front back towards the lead.
A couple of drivers we haven't really talked about a whole lot. Driver number 37, and here's, I believe that's Eric Jones in the 51 going to go through. This is for 12th in class, 31st overall, Greg.
Yeah, and they've been going at it really for the last couple of laps now, and Jones just found the right, got a good run out of 7 on the front straight and managed to make his way through as we watch the TCR cars now try to battle their way and knife their way through, heading through the uphill and out of the no-name straight.
That was the 96 car again.
For the lead in MX-5.
Oh, Brian Maloney still got it. Lekowitz in second place, and they're kind of in the middle there, so you see a lot more traffic approaching behind. Alessandrini still P5. He's 1.4 back from third place Cromwell, who is about a second back from these front two.
All right, and we'll have to see if this battle in MX5 between Maloney and Lekowitz, if they can stay together heading down the downhill here onto the front straight. Oh wow, looks like Lekowitz takes a wild ride out of turn 7 onto the straight, but doesn't lose a lot of ground though, but does give that TCR car the opportunity to knife on through, and Lekowitz is right back in the battle, pretty much right where he was right before he came through the diving turn over at turn 7.
Yeah, you definitely keep your foot in it, if any. When you go off in turn 7, your only option is really to keep your foot in it, because that straightaway is so crucial to a good lap around here. Even in traffic, if you go off, you're going to just plant your foot to the floor and hope you can drive through it.
Yeah, and really all you got to be just hoping that you don't get into the wall, because the wall is not too terribly far. Whoa! Crash on the uphill. Mixed cars involved.
Yeah, you can see Muller's involved. There's the 7 TCR. That's Eno Waxman involved here. So let's go back and see what happened with this group of cars. This was, again, coming off the uphill. This is an incident that we've seen a couple times tonight. Here is a look. So Waxman's in the 7. There's Muller. Wow.
Muller runs wide.
Yeah.
They got together on the exit. It looks like Waxman maybe thought he was clear on track out there, and just hadn't cleared Muller, and they both went across over driver's left into the wall.
Yeah, wow. That was the 28 car that went for a crazy ride up over the top. It was David Stern. Here's another look at that. If I can just grab where Stern was on track here. He just comes up the uphill, guys, and right as you can see the tires lift up, and then he's going to just drive right into this mess here, and nowhere for him to go.
No, he looked like he was going to try and thread the needle, and unfortunately, both Waxman and Muller stayed side by side, pretty much did the entire incident.
So checking back in, how about Josh Caden now in the 97 and Galil Naderboff in the 19 car? They're 7th and 8th in class right now with a couple TCRs behind him, about to break this up.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see where they kind of catch them. This could potentially help Natirbuff or even Caden now, depending on where they catch him. And it looks like Natirbuff's going to get destroyed on the stick, having to let 2 on by before the uphill. Yeah, and
Natirbuff, he went a little wide on the exit of turn 2, and that really gave the opportunity to both the TCR cars to knife underneath. And he's now stuck trying to make up the gap, but it looks like he might have an opportunity here going through the diving turn onto the straight here, as Louis Alessi in the 43 TCR car had some issues coming through the uphill.
Yeah, went a little bit wide in turn 6 on the entry to turn 7. And then, again, I mentioned when this track got redone, or reprofiled, they actually took away some curbing. You see there's actually a TCR off right in front. That's the 4 car that we referred to earlier is Forrest Lambie. So that was our 4th place driver. Anyway, as I was saying, the top of turn 7, the curve used to be about twice as wide up there. It's actually narrower now than it was. So drivers are typically used to tracking out a couple feet farther, and now that they can't do that, they're going to catch grass up there, and it's kind of a crazy ride up there.
Yeah, they've got
on for 3rd in MX5 between Sam Scott Cromwell and Alessandrini. They're all nose to tail, and Alessandrini, what a recovery for him.
And yeah, you mentioned he slid back to 8th after that slide and spin in turn 3, but he's back up and he's going to move himself into 4th and set his sights on 3rd. That's Sam Scott, the 41.
Yeah, and he's got a great run as he goes into turn number 1 here. We'll have to see if he can do anything with it, though, guys. As we've got some TCR traffic now, and that's actually, I believe that's our 2nd place TCR car, perhaps.
That is Elias Roman, the 3rd place car.
Yeah, that's the 99. That's the 99 car. That's Elias Roman, trying to make his way through the field here.
And he'll go on by both. The door opens slightly for Alessandrini. Going to get up alongside as they crest the hill. Not really a passing zone into 6th, though, so we'll have to hang tight.
When does that stop Alessandrini in the pass?
It never stops DJ, but birthday boy can do whatever he wants, and he's probably going to make a pass up there at some point tonight. Look at this run on the front straight right. He got a great run. Can you use the slipstream? We'll have a look down into turn 1.
All right, and as they come through, we haven't seen the 41 car move over to hold the position yet. And Alessandrini comes right up, heading down into the braking zone, and Alessandrini all over the curbing, and at least momentarily takes the lead. And let's see if he can hang on here as they come through turn 2, and he does manage to make it stick. And looks like our I guess was it the 4th place driver trying to make his way around as well, take a move there, but can't get it done as Cameron Groomer goes off as that battle goes right on by.
As there's Sean Cromwell getting on through in the number 15 car. That's Sam Scott again in the 41. So he's actually going to lose 2 spots. Cromwell will move up 1. Now Alessandrini goes up 2 in the last lap. Let's check in on 12th place in TCR. This is getting real busy here, Finney. Look at this.
Boy.
Brew, Baumgartner, Fitzgerald, Kessel, Merker all together here.
Talk about a traffic jam as these guys are all stuck in behind an MX-5. And who's going to be the first to make a move? Fitzgerald catches some of the grass and he gets sideways.
Look at this.
Saves it.
Rumbling on the backstretch. There's not a lot of places to go here, and they're all tucked in behind.
MX-5 pulled off into the grass to let pull them on by.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to split them 3 wide, and that is your leader coming up the middle. That's Tom O'Gorman actually putting these guys a lap down. So Tomo went 3 wide on the inside of the exit of 6 to lap these guys.
Yeah, and that was Brian McCrea to that MX-5 that just got passed by 7 TCRs, 6 or 7 of them, as they're still working through some more traffic while also battling their way up through the order.
Oh, this is getting really wild.
I said you want to be predictable as those cars come through, but perhaps going to the grass might be the most predictable thing you can do.
And there's Tom O'Gorman right in the middle of this, and here these are all TCRs trying to stay on the lead lap as we are a little bit past the halfway point here, and he's put down up to 14th in class. He's going to put a few of them more lap down right here. Have a look to the inside.
And with O'Gorman with almost a 10-second lead over our second place runner Ken Husil, there's always the worry that being in such a line of these TCR cars, which are very evenly matched, of course, appears that perhaps the X factor there is O'Gorman's driving, but with the cars very closely matched and a big lineup of them going around this Lime Rock course, that we might see that 10-second lead start to evaporate. But so far, O'Gorman making pretty good progress through this field of back markers.
So put now down up to Francois Brew in 12th, 1 lap down. Back in, checking in on our GMX5 field. This is on the other side of the course. Lekowitz still has the lead, but Alessandrini has been lapping about a half a second quicker the last few laps. You see him at the back of this shot here. So he is closing. At this pace, he should get there, but he's still got a lot of work left to do.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Finian. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, I was going to say, I think he's also going to need a little bit of luck, too, with this traffic, to potentially slow the leaders down that he's catching. He's still got a decent way left to go, so he has some time to catch up, but he definitely needs to start pushing if he hasn't already.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing that he can hope for is Maloney in the 56 car and Lekowitz, our leader in MX-5, in the 168 car, can continue to battle it out. Right now, it looks like they've pretty much fallen into a good rhythm, and they're more or less content to just trying to get their way through traffic. And if they stay that way, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Alessandrini to make it up to them. But as soon as they start battling, or as soon as they start hitting some TCR traffic in inopportune places on the track, that's going to be Alessandrini's time to shine.
There is Francis Castillo Romero, the 5th place TCR going on through. How about that night, Finney, at 4? Castillo Romero up into 5th, and he started this race in 11th. So he's having a really solid night, and has, for the most part, kept himself out of trouble. I think there might have been a little bit of contact earlier with Ryan Kristoff, but other than that, not a scratch on that car.
Yeah, this is just a sign of a really solid night, moving up so many spots, considering how chaotic this race has been. So he's gone forward quite a bit.
Ryan Kristoff, we mentioned earlier, Greg 12th to 7th, plus 5 for him, and he's right behind Sang Yi. That's the 6th place, number 1.
Yeah, he's right behind Sang Yi, and then he has Telek Sadiq, I believe, right behind him. I was just watching, if we go back to that Global MX-5 race, and of course we've got the 168 of Lekowitz and the 56 of Maloney. They're still in pretty close quarters with the TCR cars trying to get by. Alessandrini not very far back. As a matter of fact, you should have just seen him going over West Bend there. He's making up ground as he comes onto the front straight. He's only about half a straightaway away from our leaders, and he's got pretty open track ahead of him that he can start to really make up some ground.
There's Sadiq around the outside in the 63. These front-wheel drive cars, these long sweeping corners are not easy on the front tires for these cars, Finian. And again, they're deep enough into this race now where they're feeling that tire wear. So that was probably a pretty tough move for Roman to make, or excuse me, for Sadiq to make. But he did the job. There's a car off in turn 4.
Eric
That looks
Jones.
to be, yes, Eric Jones in the 51. He'll drop down the order. So 17 minutes to go. Front of the field, Tom O'Gorman leads Ken Steele by 8.3 seconds in TCR. Alexander Lekowitz leads Ryan Maloney by 0.7 of a second. Then it's 3 seconds more to find DJ Alessandrini, but he continues to close the gap. The closest battle on the racetrack right now for position anywhere on the track looks to be like it's actually for 15th place, Marcus Pine and Camden Gruber in the 15th place and 16th place MX-5s.
And it looks like Alessandrini might have gotten the chrome horn there from one of the TCR cars. We'll have to see if that affects him any. And it looks like he's still managed to get on his way. He was coming out of turn 7, and
he got a bit of a tap from the car behind. It looks like he didn't really give him more damage than he already had.
It was the 92 car, which would be Don Manning, the 18th place TCR. So just a little touch there. Did slow him down a bit, but I don't think the damage is very significant. He should be okay. Checking back in with our leaders here. And again, we talked way earlier about this, but they're just, and you mentioned this too, Greg, they're just kind of riding right now. You see a little bit of a slide there for the 168, but really their goal is just to keep DJ behind him, because then they can fight out amongst themselves. They know how good DJ Alessandrini is, and they know how hard it is to beat him. Down in turn 1, though, there's a whole lot going on. A whole bunch of TCRs trying to figure out where that is on what cars are involved in that battle, Finian, but there we go. They're saying Yee in it, and Ryan Kristoff continues to try to track him down. And right in front is the 43 car. That is Louis Alessi. He's 17th place as one of the MX-5s goes for a ride.
Yeah, and right ahead of him, we've got Casillo Romero as well, leading that whole pack through.
And was checking in on, well, there's the 98 car pulling back on track. So Ryan Maloney is your leader here. Was the 168 leading before, or am I just going crazy?
No, we had Lekowitz in the lead the last time we saw them, and there he is right there, the 168. Looks like he might have run wide.
And here's a look down in turn 1. Yeah. Oh, was there contact with this 92? Oh, he just sailed it in there and just knocked him out of the way. That's a whole lot of damage as well on the front of that car.
That's what we're talking about too, between contact with a TCR and the MX-5. The MX-5 is the car that's going to go flying off into the distance, and it's a perfect example of that there.
And here comes DJ Alessandrini. This is for second in class, 3.5 seconds behind leader Ryan Maloney. But Greg, that damage, it's not terminal for the 168, but that was square on the right front tire. All that suspension geometry knocked out of shape. That's going to make that thing not very fun to drive for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, and you could actually see it as he came out of the diving turn, as he came onto the front straight, and actually took to the grass there, driver's left, that he might be having a little bit of distress now trying to keep that car even in a straight line.
And here comes Alessandrini for second place. Tom O'Gorman puts them now a third lap down to the overall lead, so he's on through, and Alessandrini's going to tuck back in line here, so still some pace in the 168, just not quite as much as he had a little while ago without that damage. And actually, the lead in TCR has dwindled a couple seconds, Finian, from over 10 seconds, actually it was over almost 12 seconds at one point, down to 6.9. Is this conservatism, or is this Ken running him down?
Yeah, it looks like this is just Ken running him down. He had one pretty slow lap a few laps ago, but I think Ken's just going at a much faster pace. There's nothing to show that O'Gorman had an off anywhere, so he's just been doing a solid job. Ooh, a big crash in front of the MX-5 leaders in turn 1.
Oh, that's Chris Baumgartner on the 27. And was there more here? Let's go back and take a look. Oh, it was the 25 of Colin Daner. Those two got together.
Colin Daner. Yeah, the Phoenix Performance cars had some issues today.
And that allowed DJ to get on by for the lead.
That was for second place in class. Ryan Maloney's still 3.3 seconds up the road.
Oh,
so.
sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ken Steele, we were just talking about it. Last lap by, he actually ran a second quicker than the most recent lap was 2/10 slower. So the gap remains at 6.8. But if he catches him at a second a lap, he's got all the time in the world to get there. We've still got about 13, 14 laps to go. So if Ken can keep chipping away and Tom runs into some trouble, this is not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. How about fifth place in TCR? Casillo Romero and Sangi for fifth. The hill.
got some MX-5 traffic in the way. We'll see here what's going to go on with Romero doing a good job defending as the MX-5 is going to pull out of the way, saying he's going to be kind of tight, almost get into him.
Yeah, it looks like Naturbov probably saw those cars coming through just at the last moment there and decided to hold the car out. Drivers left as the two TCR cars make their way through.
So Alessandrini is 3.7 back from leader Ryan Maloney, but now for third place in class, here's Lekowitz, and Sean Cromwell's actually run down the 15 car as well. So it's a podium fight. Lekowitz was battling for the race win, but now it's just to stay on the podium here with that left front damage, or right front damage rather. There's third place Elias Roman in TCR.
Yeah, and they're both sitting right behind David Atkinson in the 456 car as Atkinson runs a little bit wide there, and looks like the 15 has to take evasive maneuvers. He gets around the 456.
Oh, right in front of him, 37 car out of control, crashing right in the middle of the straight, and there goes Cromwell
takes
upside
out
down.
the 15.
Oh no.
Oh no, and that was Cromwell, who was running in third position at the time in Global MX-5.
Here's the look. It was the 37. He had crashed out of turn 7, and he pulls it back across the racetrack. And is that Dave Fitzgerald? Yes, I believe that was. And it just and also took out Lekowitz. So two of our top 4
got
drivers.
Lekowitz as well.
Wow.
Oh, that's just terrible. Wow, what a mess. And that's certainly going to be an interesting one in the post-race drivers meeting, everybody. But Tom O'Gorman continues to lead 9.2 seconds. He stretches lead back out. Checking in on our GMX5 leader, still Ryan Maloney. Alessandrini hasn't been able to really reel him in. It's still 3.7 seconds and from first back to second. And then it's going to be Sam Scott inheriting a podium right now in that 41 car. So a crazy crash on the front straightaway takes out Fitzgerald and two of our top 5 runners in GMX5 with under 12 minutes to go. And there is the 4 car, that's Forrest Landy. We haven't really talked about Forrest Landy at all yet today, Greg, but he's had a really quiet day, started 10th, plus 6 into 4th, so a really solid day. Not a scratch on that car either.
No, not at all. And of course, Forrest, besides having quite a bit of experience in the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series in Spec Miata, also he and his family had done quite a bit of racing in the Global MX-5, not Global MX-5 Cup, but in Pro Spec Miata a number of years ago for Meathead Racing. So I think a lot of that is translating to the way he runs here in iRacing, and he's running a very clean, safe, conservative race here, as you mentioned. Not a touch on that car.
Less than 10 minutes ago, Finney and Paul Gibson in the 53 car. We haven't really talked about him yet tonight either. Started 4th, and he was one of the drivers that had issues early, but he's back to 9th and having some connectivity problems as well. So that's certainly going to be a distraction.
Yeah, and hopefully that kind of irons itself out. He's starting to flash quite a bit here. He potentially has a chance of dropping. That would ruin his top 10 finish that he's going for at the moment.
So checking in to see if there's any 4-position battles. There's Kananow and Christopher Lapras in the 0-4. Lapras, are we surprised, Greg, that maybe he's not a little bit higher up the order? We typically see Lapras fighting for a podium, and right now he's outside the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. We typically see him up at the front, and of course he qualified 3rd today. Fell back fairly early in the race.
Remember that it was his contact with DJ Alessandrini that kind of set up. Yeah, so he's been struggling and just clawing for positions ever since then. He's done a really solid job. He's currently running 6th after what happened to him.
Well, here's Jason Friday. This is the first time that we've ever seen this name here, and Lapras actually go by him for 4th here. But this is the first time we've seen this name, and to run top 5 is actually pretty solid. Your first race, and this is a heck of a way to start. And here goes Tom O'Gorman to put them a 4th lap down to the overall leader,
yeah,
but still a really good run for a first timer here.
Yeah, absolutely. And good heads-up driving by Friday as he saw our leader coming on through. And he managed to hold the car out there and let O'Gorman, maybe not let O'Gorman by, but certainly didn't give him any troubles in getting through that apex.
And Josh Caden now 12th to 5th. This has been a really solid night. Think back a couple seasons, Vinny, and Caden now is actually running for a championship in one of the classes that he ran in the MX-5, so we know how talented he is, and a solid top 5 run tonight would certainly be a good takeaway this evening at Lime Rock Park.
He's still got to hold off the 131 behind him, so it's not all said and done just yet, but yeah, I think he's set for a really solid finish. I think a lot of these drivers that are in the top 5, top 10 boat classes are set for a solid finish, considering how hectic this race has been.
All right, if we take a look, Husil has managed to, just in the last lap or so, knock about a second off of O'Gorman's times, but again, a long way back here as we now see Husil coming out of the uphill, and it's a long way, and he's got a lot of traffic ahead of him to get to O'Gorman.
Yeah, and this is, I think, had we made this progress more consistent, I think we'd consider him a real threat to win. He does seem like he's a little bit quicker than Tomo, in a vacuum, but we're not racing in a vacuum. There's lots of traffic out here, and that's kind of slowed the progress, and I just don't think he's going to have enough laps left. We're just crossed about 9 laps to go, estimated last time through, so unless something happens to Tomo, I think he's pretty safe up front right now, but you never know with all the traffic what can happen.
I was going to say, it really depends on what traffic he's catching and where. A lot of things could happen, it's not over till it's over, really, in this kind of race.
And you see him actually stuck behind. That is, looks like Michael Shea in the 78, and that is the 10th place TCR, so Ken Husil about to put him a lap down. Checking back in with GMX5 lead, though, Ryan Maloney continues, but now the gap is 2.7. Now, this one I'm more intrigued by because we've seen the MX5s have a bit more trouble than the TCRs tonight, and that gap is falling relatively quickly. And it seems like recently, the last couple laps, DJ's been a lot more consistent in taking those times off. So I think we might see a battle for the lead in GMX5 before the night's out.
Well, the problem there is you're seeing is actually right in front of the screen. There's Maloney. He's that white car up the road. There's 3 other cars in between them. So he's got to get past and then start to chase Maloney down. He's really running out of time.
6 minutes, 20 seconds left here, Greg. So now you're kind of going into, for the drivers that had issues, damage control mode. If you're leading the race, you're just trying not to get yourself into trouble and keep your defenders on your car.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think damage control mode might be the name of the game for our leaders as well, as they now are trying to maintain position. And of course, we've seen a lot of drivers that have made some questionable recoveries. There's the 47 car, speaking of which, but you always have to look out for and be ready, have your head up to see what might be ahead of you. As Alessandrini now tries to make his way through traffic, and we'll see if he tries to follow these TCR cars through turns 3 and turn 4 to see if he can make up some of those positions.
Well, there's actually
that's if a wreck is not going to happen in front of them at the right. They're going flying.
Yeah, and again, these TCRs, I mean, they have a lot more downforce than the GMX5s do, but they're also about 700 pounds heavier, so they don't corner all that much better than these MX5s do because there's so much mechanical grip in that Global MX5 car. So the corner speeds are not that different. It's really the straightaways where these cars are kind of put the gaps on each other. So you saw DJ kind of get stuck behind a few of the TCRs for a sector or two, and he did lose another second to leader Ryan Maloney. Checking back.
And Alessandrini now taking to the grass, coming out of turn 7.
You're talking about that run.
Oh, full line! Wow!
Oh my God!
Thread the needle. That was insane through turn 1. I can't believe they even tried that. We gotta get a look at that. That was cool. Here's a look at this again.
Put that on the highlight reel.
Sure. I mean, that was epic. Look at this.
Whoa.
Have you ever seen anything like that, Greg? Not at Lime Rock.
No.
Wow. So I need to take a screenshot of that. That should be the promotional photo.
There you go.
That was absolutely amazing, and as that was starting to develop, watching Alessandrini's, he'd gone off over turn 7 and went 4 wheels into the grass. The interesting thing there is that he was actually still carrying more pace than the 243 car was as they came onto the straightaway. So the grass really didn't slow him down all that much.
Keep your foot in it. Here comes Tom O'Gorman again, and we've talked about him very little really since the drop of the green flag, just because he's been leading by so much. But again, brand new Valvoline Esports driver in this 194 car, and got Grid Life and a couple other sponsors. The SCCA Esports logo on the side there, Greg, because he'll be running that tomorrow afternoon. That'll be on the SCCA YouTube channel. We'll be heading to Sebring for
Sebring Raceway,
5 races tomorrow night, so we'll see Tomo out there as well. But again, he's got experience in this car, so it almost makes it unfair. He's won at 4 different racetracks. He's won at VIR, Road Atlanta, Daytona, and Sebring, and 2 of those wins came in this very car, the Audi RS3 TCR. So he's very experienced, and he's showing it tonight. A smoke cloud there, and a couple of cars slipping and sliding out there, but 3 minutes left to go. That's about 4 laps this time through, as Tom's going to head to the inside of the 24 car. There's Francois Brou and Andrew Kessel. This is for 12th in category right now for TCR. really talk about Ryan Kristoff in a little while, but he's been chasing this one car of Sang-Yi for the better half of 30, 40 minutes now, and hasn't really been able to get by him. Finney, he's just been kind of stuck there.
Yeah, it really has. There's no way on by. I mean, he's got a few more minutes to potentially try to snag away that top 5 finish. I'm saying, but he's got to just try to open up a passing opportunity. And I think it might be also the MX-5s that are cutting him off and just not giving him that opportunity.
Well, drivers side by side in front of them. Those are cars that are a lap down to Ryan Kristoff at the moment. And Colin Daner and Scott Merker, this is for position for 15th in class.
15th position, I believe, yeah.
Background, I think I saw Elias Roman get a little sideways. There's another car out there that looks a lot like Elias Roman's, and they were wide in turn 1, didn't see who it was, but Kessel hits pit lane here. Going up on the jacks.
Yeah, getting some tires.
Yeah, maybe not enough fuel in the car either. That's probably more likely.
Is Dave still
there it is. Dave's going to be angry at you for making that reference. So, how about this, guys? We got 1 minute and 43 seconds left in this race. Ryan Maloney leads DJ Alessandrini by 2 seconds. Next time by will be 2 laps to go for them. Is there any chance that DJ can get back to Ryan Maloney, Greg?
Well, I mean, if he can get up there, and of course, I believe that's what Kenton Koch that's right behind him there. If he can actually get up to him. Now, remember, just last week actually, no, I guess it was 2 weeks ago at Summit Point for the E-Super Tour race, Alessandrini was very brave to make a move down the outside of the chute at Summit Point in a place that you typically would not try to make a pass. It did not work out very well for him, but I think that if he can make up those extra 10 car lengths or so that he needs to get to our leader, we might see an untraditional area of this track as a pass attempt.
1.6 seconds now. They've just taken 2 to go. I don't think Tom's going to be able to relap them in the time that they have left, so they're going to get all 2 laps to fight it out. So Roman leads by 10.8 seconds over Ken Alciel, Elias Roman, 17 seconds behind that. But how about 5th place in GMX5? This is a bit of a hornet's nest at the top of the hill. Friday, Cadenau, and here comes the 6th place TCR for Ryan Kristoff right up the middle here.
Yeah, he got squeezed out by the MX-5. That's something you don't really see too often with the slower cut squeezing the other car out. But Kristoff now working through the middle of that traffic, trying to get a run on Friday. Whoa!
A little wide at the exit of 7. That's going to open up the door for Cadenau to stick the nose in, and he didn't get a very good run off though, and through goes Brew in the lap down. Oh, bit of a slide, and that looks to be Paul Gibson's number 53. Gibson. And still dealing with the issues that he was having a little bit earlier in the night, so. White flag in the air, though, for Tom O'Gorman. He just got by. A battle for, I don't know if that's for position. That is the 168 Olekowicz, who's now a lap down to the MX-5 leaders, but checking back in on GMX-5, guys, that's 1.3 seconds. Gonna get tight.
Yeah, he did and he also just got his way around Jason Friday as well. But Alessandrini starting to make his way here, but still a long way to go with only about 3/4 of a lap left in this race.
Tom O'Gorman started 3rd from the very drop of the green flag in turn 1, made a move for the lead. He was able to hold on to it through a hectic race, and Tom O'Gorman will win the Washington, D.C. Region SCCA iRacing League 45 minutes at Lime Rock Park. Behind them in GMX5, Maloney in the 56 car. He started the night in 4th place. And there was all sorts of carnage throughout the night. But at the end of it, he will just hang on to it over Alessandrini by 0.8 of a second, maybe less, as they come to the stripe to complete this 45-minute event.
Yeah, how about that? Great finish between them. And I think DJ is going to be saying, man, 2-3 more laps, I would have had him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing to see that run back through the field that Alessandrini made after he had that early mistake coming through turn 3. And it really says something about how much traffic here can really play into a race, as he did have to make his way through, I believe, 7 other cars in order to make it up, and made a very tight fight for the lead there and the win in Global MX-5.
Kane now ran out of fuel on the last lap. He'll come home in 9th after running inside the top 5 on the white flag, and just coasts across the line.
Yeah, finishes on the virtual the virtual starter motor there to get across the line.
Here's a look at your race results. It was Tom O'Gorman and Ryan Maloney, your winners in class. As we look down the order here, Finney, and what a night of racing, 45 minutes. We did see a couple big incidents, but nothing really at the start. That was really promising and cool to see.
Yeah, it really was. Some pretty insane incidents throughout the field. Some involving mixed class, some involving the same class of drivers. But yeah, it was interesting. I was actually a little bit surprised that the TCR fight wasn't closer. But ever since we saw the second and third get caught in behind the MX-5s, Tom just took off and just never looked back since finishing with a 10-second lead.
So we're going to let the rest of the order scroll on through here, Greg, but your final thoughts before we jump to break and talk to some of our podium finishers.
Well, it didn't play out the way I expected it to. I expected to see a lot more carnage early in the race. We had a couple of semi big ones, some incidents that took 4 or 5 cars out, which certainly impacted the podium in Global MX-5 tonight. But all in all, lots of great racing, and definitely looking forward to the rest of the WDCR SCCA iRacing League.
All right, we'll be back in just a couple minutes to talk to some of your podium finishers, so stay put. We'll be right back. Welcome back live here to Sim TV in the DC Region SCCA iRacing League. We're here now with our third place finisher in TCR. It's Elias Roman in the 99 car. Elias, wild out there tonight, lots of traffic, but third place podium, you got to be pretty happy with that after you started your night on pole.
Yeah, crazy was definitely an understatement in Lime Rock, but definitely with over 50 cars, it's something to be expected. Yeah, I was actually surprised I got pole, and even better, my SCCA D Street rival slash friend Sang was next to me. Then I kind of bobbled it in turn one. The brakes just didn't grab enough, swung wide, saved it. And then I was just basically just gonna tuck behind Tom, and when he went with traffic, I would go. But then we kind of got broken up. Had a really good battle with Ken for a bunch of laps, and then kind of the same thing. And then they was kind of just survive at that point.
A lot of multi-class interaction tonight. Do you think it was harder to deal with the lap down TCRs or harder to deal with the MX-5 cars that were battling for position on their own lap?
It really depends on where you caught them in the circuit. I caught DJ, Sam Scott, and someone else by No Name Straight, and they were literally 3 abreast, and I had nowhere to get by. And then at the same time, I was trying to put a lap down on Kessel and Fitzgerald, but similar speeds down the straight, it's kind of hard to overtake.
Well, it's a really strong run tonight. Podium for you in that 99 car. Congratulations. Thanks for talking, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
Sure.
I'm like,
We're gonna move on now to, hey, Ken, we're gonna pull you in at probably a bad time, but we got you in here to talk to you. Second place night. You were running down Tomo for a little bit, but came up 10 seconds shy. Walk us through your night, and if you had more laps, you think you could have gotten there?
Yeah, I mean, it would have needed some more laps with a lot of traffic for Tom and not for me. That's pretty much what it came down to. I mean, at the beginning there, Elias and I were battling a little bit. I mean, we were both like, oh, let's just try to catch Tom, but we were just in traffic too much, and then it was once the gap was built, it was just we're not getting through the traffic at the same time as Tom, and it's like once you got that separation, it's kind of just luck of the draw.
Talking about the initial start of the race, because I think we were pretty surprised at how little incidents there were those first couple laps. Was the start the hairiest part for you, or is it always that first run through the back half of the MX5 field that really gets you up on your toes?
The start was a little scary this time because Elias got real sideways in T1, but otherwise the start was actually really clean. I was pretty happy with everybody for that. That was some heads-up driving, and then like you suggested, when you get to the back of the MX5 field the first time, and it's like you're waking them up for the first time, and it's a surprise to them. So that's always a surprise. I don't know how to describe it, but messy.
All right, Ken. Hey, wasn't too messy for you tonight, though. Top two, actually. Podium for you in that 23 car. A solid run. Second place. Thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks. Move on now to, race winner Tom O'Gorman, a new partnership, new sponsors on the side of that car, Tom, and you did him proud in the Valvoline Esports 194 tonight. Went out, started third, and by the exit of turn 3, you were leading the thing, and you never looked back. Walk us through tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've done this mix of cars in class before with this same group, and from real world experience as well, I knew that it was all down to traffic, so the key was just getting to the front as fast as I could if I had the opportunity, and luckily I got that opportunity with the mistake from Elias right in the first corner. And then once we got to that first group of cars, it was just I got the luck of the draw once more and got like a 2-second gap where I could just calmly and slowly work my way through traffic without taking any risks whatsoever. And there were still a couple of close calls for sure, but I guess that's the way it goes with multiclass at Lime Rock. And yeah, it's really cool to join Valvoline's esports driver lineup and win the first one out of the gate with the V on the side.
Obviously, Lime Rock is a difficult track even in single class racing because really the passing opportunity is generally just at the end of the front straightaway, but you're kind of forced to make crazy moves at every corner here in a multi-class situation. So where was another good place tonight to make those passes, or was it just kind of take him as you get him and make a pass around the outside in every corner?
I think the key for me is it's a safe to pass on corner exit and down straightaways. So I was constantly focused on making sure I wasn't dive bombing into corners. I was rather trying to make sure that I was set up for a run down straightaways. And you can even set yourself up for a run out of the left-hander into the right-hander. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a long straightaway, but as long as you're passing somebody on exit, if you've got more power, they have a lot more time to react to you being there. And the only close calls I really had were when people were already having awkward interchanges or incidents with other cars, and I was approaching that. So that approach worked pretty well. I might have abused the tires a little bit too much through the beginning of the race to kind of get to that gap that I had, but I know Ken had a little more speed at the end of the race, but at that point, the 10-second gap was too much to overcome.
Tom, congratulations. Race win and your first time with the Valvoline colors, your first victory. So hope that trend continues for you. Good luck tomorrow in the SCCA Hoosier Esports Super Tour. We'll see you there.
Thanks, guys, and hi, Greg.
Hi, Tom. Great race tonight.
All right, we're going to move on now to Ryan Maloney, who took the victory in GMX5 tonight. Ryan, it wasn't without trials and tribulations. There was a lot of action out there. We saw some of the drivers in the podium and then within the top 5 get crashed out with less than 10 minutes to go in the race. But for you, you outlasted everybody and you came home the race winner with DJ Alessandrini 6/10 back. Walk us through those last 20 minutes because that seemed pretty intense with DJ hunting you down.
Yeah, it was just all about trying to survive, just making sure you let the TCR cars go, see when they're coming up, because sometimes they just get in a little deep. Nothing really they can do. They're just carrying so much more speed than us. But yeah, just trying to work through lap traffic, and that was about it.
Tonight, it seemed like the first couple laps, we talked about this with some of the TCR guys, the first couple laps were a lot cleaner than I think everyone was expecting, but then the TCRs made that first run through the field. How do you prepare yourself for that first multi-class interaction, and are you watching your mirror more those first couple laps or more towards the end of the race?
Yeah, definitely the first couple, because it's everyone's just getting in a groove around each other with the slower and faster paced cars. Yeah, at the beginning of the race, I really didn't have much problems with any of the TCR cars. They were catching me at good times, and they were getting around me pretty good. So I personally didn't really have too many instances where the TCR cars messed me up. So it worked out for me good.
All right, Ryan Maloney takes home the victory in GMX5 at Lime Rock Park. Ryan, thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. I just want to give a special thanks to my driving coach, Brooks, and that's it.
All right, Ryan, have a great night.
Thanks. You too.
That's going to do it for the interviews tonight, guys. But 45 minutes at Lime Rock Park, we did it. Everything went okay. We all survived. But very tense few moments there for some of the time tonight. But I thought the field as a whole did a pretty good job, and I am excited for the next round in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. And of course, as you mentioned, the next round, that's going to be at Virginia International Raceway on the 24th. And that is going to be a very interesting race. That is going to be a 2.4-hour race, an actual team event. And talking to some of the organizers, it will likely be almost the equivalent of a Pro-Am race there that I believe the DC region is going to be working on putting together the teams of drivers to really balance the field out there. So it should be a pretty interesting run and very different from what you saw here at Lime Rock.
Benny, and your thoughts after the 45 minutes tonight, and of course looking forward to that VIR event in a couple weeks. That's going to be a fun one too. Team events, we haven't done that, I don't think, ever on SimTV.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be really fun. Yeah, I think pretty much is as far as I'm thinking. I don't think we've done one. We've done a 2.4 hour, but yeah, like you're saying, I think it's only just a single class. Yeah, it'll be nice to see driver swaps for that event. But yeah, as far as the race tonight's concerned, part of me almost feels like we probably should have saw some more crashes. So in that respect, nice to see that we saw less than I guess that I expected at least, and pretty solid racing, all things considered.
Well, I think that's pretty much going to do it for tonight. Make sure you join us tomorrow for some SCCA Hoosier Esports Super Tour action from Sebring. That'll be started at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or actually 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow.
5 p.m.
Thank you for correcting me there, Greg. So 5 p.m. tomorrow. It'll be on the SCCA YouTube channel and also on their Facebook page as well. So make sure you subscribe to both their channel and their Facebook page. And if you enjoyed tonight's action, make sure you hit the subscribe button right underneath this video. It helps us out a bunch. And we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. and also at 10 o'clock Eastern for the Outsider Racing League continuing their championship from Kansas Speedway at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.